In the summer of 2023, I made the decision to retire from all competitive pinball tournaments.
Well, hi everybody, welcome to Sports Center. Brian Kenny here alongside Larry Beal. Is this it? Is that all from
Tim Sexton?
And where do they all go from here?
And since I made the announcement, I've been asked many questions about my decision. So instead of answering one question at a time or getting dragged down into frivolous debates, I've decided to make this video because ultimately my decision didn't come down to one particular event or experience, but a conclusion I had reached. Pinball tournaments were bad for me, and they were going to get worse. So without further ado, here is everything wrong with pinball tournaments.
Whopper, 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 Junior, Double, Triple, Whopper.
As the official ranking system of competitive pinball, the World Pinball Player Rankings determine exactly how good of a person you are. Just like the Forbes Richest Billionaires list, Whoppers are increased through Sigma grind set. For many years, Whopper points were considered to be fake internet points.
That's right, the points don't matter at all, just like Blair Witch 2.
The system remained completely free for years, but starting in 2018, the IFPA would roll out its dollar fee to all North American tournaments. Under this new structure, tournament directors could register their tournaments on the IFPA website for free, but Whopper points would only be awarded after the tournament director submitted a fee of $1 per player per tournament. This dollar would then go into the prize pool for the state championship series. Looking back, I believe that this is the main change to pinball tournaments that led to my retirement. But at the time it rolled out in 2018, I wasn't paying too much attention because I had just moved to Chicago and started my new job as a game developer. Following the temporary ban on both non-essential travel and non-essential pinball tournaments, I set my sights on Germany, which would host the upcoming 2023 IFPA World Pinball Championship. To qualify for the tournament, I would need to improve my Whopper ranking so that I could be one of the 80 international qualifiers. Since I already had the skill, time, money, and knowledge, it was never much of a challenge to qualify, but I quickly started to notice that the pinball tournaments themselves had significantly changed. While us city folks spend time sipping our lattes, answering our emails, and running our cute little 26.2 mile marathons with their 6-hour time limits, real salt-of-the-earth pinball farmers are grinding every day from sunrise until dawn, playing up to 3 tournaments a day for 13 days straight. Named for their similarity to the farms and proximity to actual farmland, Pinball Farms sprouted up to test the idea that you can never have too much of a good thing. It's hard to succinctly describe a pinball farm, but the general consensus is you'll know one when you see one. My best attempt to define it is as a multi-day event where tournaments start and end consecutively and no single event stands out as the main attraction. Unlike pinball shows where people are allowed to move about freely to all the different seminars, tournaments, free play areas, or other entertainment, Pinball Farm events put everyone on the exact same experience at the exact same time. These events are rigid. Players do not have the option to leave for an extended amount of time without penalty of disqualification. Pinball machines are big. Pinball tournaments are big. Real estate is expensive. Unlike pinball's more successful older brother golf, with its luxurious private courses built in the middle of urban city centers, pinball hosts its large-scale tournaments in movie theater lobbies, exurban strip malls, and actual barns. What these locations lack in glamour, they also lack in amenities. From 2015 to 2019, the Pinburg tournament at Replay FX was held at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center in downtown Pittsburgh. Within a 10-minute walk from the event, players could choose from dozens of restaurants and several major hotels. Sadly, this event was forced to close due to the pandemic. But Pinburg announced their return in 2024 at Resident Esports, which sounds really cool, like the HyperX Esports Arena at the Luxor in Las Vegas. But it's really just a large arcade built inside a movie theater, which is built in the middle of a giant parking lot, which you will need to use because getting to the nearest hotel means crossing 3 massive highways where there are no sidewalks. One distinct advantage that players get when they attend pinball tournaments that are attached to shows are America's bountiful casual dining brand. Places like Applebee's, IHOP, and Buffalo Wild Wings are an integral part of the fabric of this country. They are reliable options for locals as well as business travelers, road trippers, and pinball tournament players alike. But the problem with casual dining is that despite the sleek and sticky tablet printer that sits on the table that allows hungry guests to send their food orders directly into the kitchen, sitting down to eat a meal during a pinball tournament just takes way too long. And that time could be spent playing more pinball. But have no fear, because Pinball Farms invented a great solution to this self-imposed time constraint: food trucks. With 4-player groups, there's plenty of time to stand next to games, holding a styrofoam container and plastic fork, and shoving delicious and flavorful bites of meat, cheese, and carbohydrates down your throat until it's time to wipe your hands with a napkin and play your next ball. Let's just say that the gastrointestinal side effects of some of this food in a poorly ventilated, closed space can cause some issues. Hotels also come with a lot of modern amenities that we take for granted. Things like indoor plumbing, HVAC, security guards, and carpeted floors. Event organizers do pay for these things, as well as the venue staff who clean and attend to these facilities. If you're a fancy boy like me, and you prefer the finer things in life, you may prefer things like having fresh air to breathe, chairs to sit on, or soap and water to wash your hands with. And perhaps, even at the relatively young age of 30, you may feel like it's not great for your knees to be standing on concrete floors for 13 hours a day. Let's talk about match play qualifying. Match play is a beginner-friendly format. Another way to put this, match play qualifying is hostile to expert players. Counting for well over 95% of events, match play qualifying, including strikes, is by far the most popular pinball tournament you will encounter today. What makes these events so beginner-friendly are the number of choices taken out of the player's control and placed onto a computer. The game you play, the group you play with, and the order you play in the group are all determined, so all you have to do is show up when it's your turn and play your game. Additionally, the scoring system is simplified, so you're only playing against those players in your group rather than everyone at the tournament. There are some significant issues with this format. Sorting players in an event by playing one game at a time, throwing out that scoring data and replacing it with a 3, 2, 1, or 0 is a pretty significant waste. These tournaments are really inefficient. Player scores will always fall into a normal distribution. Plus, there needs to be a pinball machine for every 4 players. All players must play at the exact same time, and every player must wait for every game to finish before they can move on to the next round. These inefficiencies really incentivize tournament directors to cut corners. Practice time is out of the question. Game setups are really silly, with important parts of the game completely removed to speed up play. Flippers are modified, tilts are set way too tight, and often some ridiculous floor riser or wood block is propped up behind the pinball machine's back legs. So let's say I avoid match play tournaments completely. Well, I still have a few qualifying events to go to. This may be hard to believe now, but the Papa World Pinball Championships had multiple opt-in skill divisions with dedicated game banks. Despite having the largest prize pool and being the only division to award Whopper points, A division was often the least popular of all the skill divisions at Papa, with more players playing in both B and C divisions. Not only did this allow several hundred players to compete while keeping wait times short across all games, it reflected a culture of competitive pinball that has been eradicated. Papa was my first big tournament in 2013, where I competed in the C division. I returned every year after to play in a skill division that matched my skill level, coming up just short of the cut line for A division finals at Papa 20. The last Papa. In today's exceedingly rare score-based qualifying formats, hundreds and hundreds of players are all playing on the exact same bank of games at the exact same time, stretching queue times up to well over an hour for a single game. This is made even worse when tournaments add ridiculous qualifying constraints like double cars or multiple scores on the same game counting towards a player's entry. Having grown up in those B and C divisions at Papa, improving along the way, I was disappointed to see that those divisions would not be returning for Papa 21, and instead, everyone will play in one mega bank. Selfishly, I would much prefer that segregated game banks return so that I had more opportunities to practice games before finals. This year, a 5-game ticket at Indus took me between 3 and 5 hours to complete. After every game I played, I'd queue up for the next game, walk back to my hotel, get some food, watch some TV, do something else because I had a lot of time to kill between every single game. The good news is that pinball tournaments are more popular than ever. I'm asserting that this is possible because pinball tournaments are no longer sporting events so much as they are social club events for the broader pinball community. For most people, this is probably great, but for me, it's a tough pill to swallow. Growing up, I was not permitted to compete in any sports. I have no idea why this was, as I was allowed to watch sports on TV all the time. I was always competitive and I always wanted to be successful, and I really admired professional athletes. Discovering pinball tournaments at age 20 was a stroke of good fortune because it allowed me to, as an adult, practice, compete, and eventually succeed at the highest level at a sport. The journey, going from a complete novice to one of the best, learning what I could accomplish using my own physical and mental agility, and being able to fully commit to something through my own volition, are experiences I wouldn't trade in for anything. But right now, when I look around at where I am and what pinball tournaments have become, I feel like I only have opportunities to grow elsewhere. As I look back on my less than stellar pinball experiences of 2022 and 2023, I see what looks like a big effort to de-emphasize both the skill and the sport of pinball. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where this came from. Sure, it's possible that this was always going to be the entropic state of pinball, but I have a different theory. Remember back in 2018 when the dollar fee was implemented by the IFPA? Looking back now, I think this change is what set pinball on its current course. With tens of thousands of dollars up for grabs at the North American Pinball Championship Series every year, these events likely represent the largest prize packages that most of these players will take home. And since the top 20 events count in every state and province, players are incentivized to compete as frequently as possible and bring in as many players to juice up the prize pool. So, as I'm still so often solicited to play in pinball tournaments, I wonder how captured people are by this incentive structure. I am glad to say that I can proudly look back on my record as both a player and tournament organizer, where I never abandoned my dedication to the sport or my principles. In 4 years, running one of the largest tournaments in the world, the New York City Pinball Championships, I remain committed to hosting and providing the best experience I could to the players by not competing myself. The vision I had for pinball was to make professionalism possible for the future generations, to hopefully create a viable path forward so that simply through playing and achieving excellence in the sport of pinball, players could potentially earn a living. I don't think you should need an entirely different skill set, such as having the ability to write game software in order to make pinball your profession. I'm aware of the challenges and sacrifices that had to happen to create the moneymaker moment in poker, or the Queen's Gambit moment in chess. But to me, the success stories of these far more esoteric sports only go to show how attainable it is to turn pinball tournaments into marketable sports broadcasts and pinball players into professional athletes. It requires a level of capital investment risk and expertise that I certainly didn't have access to in my 20s, but so long as we still have so many players who are getting better all the time, that opportunity still exists. And if anyone can make it work, there's a ton of opportunity to bring in brand new players, spectators, and a ton of revenue. Remember that point earlier when I said that pinball tournaments were getting worse? Well, it seems at this point that I was absolutely correct. Out of nowhere, 2 majors suddenly appeared on the pinball calendar, just with no resemblance in any way to their former selves. There's Pinburg, which I already covered, which will take place at a movie theater on Routed Games, 12 miles outside of downtown Pittsburgh. And now Papa, which is 500 miles away from its original location, has expanded from a 24-player to a 72-player finals field. And the tournament website suggests that this will only take around 10 hours to play. With both of these tournaments having so little to do with past events other than their name, I really have no clue why either of these events are considered major tournaments. Both of these events promise and will deliver an inferior experience compared to their predecessors. And this gets into my reason for making this video in the first place. I really have no interest in being complicit in what I see as a deteriorating state of competitive pinball. I don't believe that people should need to sacrifice their health to play in pinball events. I think the players deserve a lot more respect than they're being given right now. There are many big and small ways that pinball tournaments could change for the better right now. Things like providing basic accommodations for things like meal breaks or just enough time to sleep at night. But the fact that these very basics need to be demanded and are not guaranteed is pretty demoralizing. I'll admit, I gave up. I stopped working on a normalized ranking formula that accurately assessed how difficult it was to finish at every position of every tournament. I gave up on developing a set of standards that fellow tournament directors could agree to provide players with a healthier experience. It just didn't feel worth it anymore. So I've decided to pursue other projects with my time, such as making videos. And if you'd like to see more, subscribe to the channel.